Yo, what's going on everyone, it's FreakyDude99 and today I have a beauty of a build that not only destroys any mid-level content, but can also go up against Grandmaster Nightfalls. This Arc Titan build utilizes the exotic point contact cannon brace for some insane melee damage when everything procs at once. This build is one that you can keep on for the entire season without worry, so I suggest you check it out. Of course, with all my builds there's a pick at the end along with a dim link in the description. Without further ado, let's jump into the build. Starting off, we have our Super Thunder Crash for massive impact and aftershock damage. The super is amazing at clearing out any nearby enemies along with dealing some deadly damage to champions and bosses. While it is an amazing super, you have to be careful with it as it can leave you unprotected in the middle of enemies if it doesn't take them out, so just be wise with your uses, especially in higher content like Grandmasters. For our class ability, we have our choice of Thrusters or Rally Barricade. Thrusters provide an evasive dash of 8 meters in any direction, and Rally gives weapon bonuses while standing behind it. In low to middle level content, I'll use Thrusters as the speed and maneuverability makes combat a lot more fun, but when I head into Master or Grandmaster content, I'll use Rally Barricade as the bonuses and protection that come along with it are a lot more handy. For our melee ability, we're of course taking Thunderclap for the massive damage and the use with point contact cannon brace. The melee can be charged up or instantly cast and deals damage to enemies up to 16 meters away. With point contact cannon brace, Thunderclap gives melee energy based on the tier of enemy defeated, and nearby targets are struck by lightning and jolted, and this lightning damage is increased by 50% while amplified. My strategy with this is for any red bars, I'll just instantly fire it off to get the damage and jolting, but for champions and bigger enemies, I'll wait for a stun and then I'll full charge it for that massive damage. For our grenade, we take Pulse Grenade for its strong sustained damage and crowd control. The grenade releases 6 pulses in total, and because of Spark of Shock, it also applies Jolt to any enemies hit by it. Not only that, but for our first aspect, we also have Touch of Thunder, which makes Pulse Grenade generate an Ionic Trace with a 1-second cooldown, and it increases its damage over time. Our second aspect is Knockout, which starts health regen and gives amplified on melee takedowns, and then upon breaking a shield or dealing damage to an enemy below 30% HP, you get 100% basic melee damage, 25% charged melee damage, and increased lunge range to 5.5 meters, and your basic melee attack counts as charged melee hits for 6 seconds. In low to mid content, this lets us punch our way through everything and spawn orbs of power on each takedown as our basic counts as a powered. In harder content, the health regen will save you a ton as it triggers on Thunderclap too. Getting a punch off when you're on your last sliver of health can save you more times than not. Down to the fragments, we have Spark of Feedback, so upon getting hit by a melee attack, we get 75% increased melee damage for 5 seconds. This is reduced to 40% if we have Knockout active and is consumed on hit. This can be really good to run in pretty much any level of content except for GMs, as most melees will one-shot you. If you're doing them a lot, I suggest you swap it out for a Spark of Magnitude for a longer Pulse Nade, which is more damage. Next, we got Spark of Shock, so our Pulse Grenade applies Jolt on damage, so we can deal out even more damage with it proccing. It helps out a ton in clearing out enemies and for sustained damage on champions. Of course, we got Spark of Ion, so jolted enemies, when defeated, spawn an Ionic Trace. There is a 10-second cooldown between activations, but it still provides consistent Ionic Traces, which give 12.5% melee and grenade energy and 15% class ability energy on pickup. And then finally, we have Spark of Resistance for a 25% damage resist while within 15 meters of 3 enemies. This lingers for 2 seconds and allows us to go into a lot more combat and get up close and personal. And that'll do for the subclass. Moving to the weapons, we have the obvious choice of Monte Carlo for the quick melee regeneration. Each hit will grant 2% melee energy, and takedowns grant Markov Chain, and have a 25% chance to refill one melee charge. Markov Chain grants increased damage for 4.5 seconds, and melee takedowns refill the magazine and grant max stacks, which is 5. The damage increases go 13%, 26%, 39%, 52%, and then 65% at 5 stacks. This allows us to almost constantly have Thunderclap available and makes spamming it that much easier. With anti-barrier auto rifles this season, it means it's viable and also gets that 25% damage increase in overcharged activities. If you're looking for a special weapon, then Delicate Tomb is a go-to, with takedowns granting a chance at ionic traces, and then after picking up one of them, your next shot has 30% increased damage and applies Jolt, which can stun overload champions. The Catalyst also refills 4 ammo upon Ionic Trace, and since this build spawns them like hotcakes, it means we can get constant Jolt shot and damage increases. Plus, with Unstoppable Fusion, it doesn't give the Unstoppable shot, but it does give the overcharge increase. And then for heavy weapons, nothing better on Arc than Thunderlord. Its damage and capabilities means it's a powerhouse in pretty much any piece of content you throw it in. It has intrinsic overload rounds, meaning it's always viable, so don't be afraid to run it. As far as legendary weapons go, you'll mostly be pairing it with anti-champion mods. Some strong arc weapons to consider trying is Iterative Loop, Elatic Principle, Prodigal Return, and Song of Ute. Of course, if you're going into GMs, then Wishender will always be your best bet as it just carries so hard. And with that, we're on to artifact mods. You're going to be grabbing 3 anti-champion mods depending on what weapons you're using. They'll also provide the 25% damage boost and overcharged activities. For second column, we grab Origin Perk Specialization 1 for improved origin traits on weapons from Season of the Witch, Season of the Deep, Neomuna, and Crota's End. You can see them listed here and what they do. We'll also grab Diviner's Discount for scavenger mods to cost 1 in special situations. For third column, we're going to be grabbing Origin Perk Specialization 2, so the guns with origin traits get the 25% overcharge damage. And then we also grab Elemental Orb's Arc, so while we have an Arc subclass equipped, Arc weapon takedowns spawn an Arc Orb every 2 final blows. Fourth column, we swap a little bit depending on what content we're in. For low to mid content, you're going to go and grab Elemental Fury for a 35% increased ability damage and 70% increased Elemental Orb damage against stunned champions. Communal pickups as well, so ally interactions with our Arc Orbs grant ×3 Arc Weapon Surge, and then refreshing pickups, so we get 33% least charged ability energy on Elemental Orb pickup. If you're in harder content, however, like GMs, then consider swapping out Communal for Semi-Auto Striker, as bows and scouts are really useful in those types of content and generate armor charges for free. This helps keep our surges up, and then as well as if you need overload machine guns, then take off refreshing pickups and then grab that. And then for the final column, we're grabbing Monochromatic Maestro for 10% ability damage on arc weapon damage and then 10% arc weapon damage on ability damage. If you're in low to mid content, then grab Elemental Munitions for a 20 to 33% chance to spawn special or heavy ammo bricks on an Arc Orb takedown. If you're in GMs, then swap it out for a Rapid Fire Ranger, so long distance rapid precision hits weaken targets. And that's it for the artifact. Time for the armor. First, for the helmet, we have Hands On, so all the crazy melee takedowns that we get will grant bonus super energy, so we can constantly spam Thunder Crash. And then we have Harmonic Siphon and Kinetic Siphon, so Monte Carlo and our arc weapons all generate orbs. For stat focusing, we're always going 100 resilience with Titan for the 30% damage resist and lower thruster/barricade cooldown. Next, we want to balance between discipline and strength, with us prioritizing discipline as we have ways of getting our melee back quicker. Having them both at least 70 is where you want to be, but any higher is ideal. For our gauntlets, we got the exotic Point Cannon Contact Brace, which aside from being a mouthful to say, is really strong in most content. Hammer of the Gods makes Thunderclap takedowns grant melee energy based on the enemy tier, with tier 1s giving 9% energy back, and mini-bosses giving 40%. On Thunderclap use, you also strike nearby targets with lightning, dealing damage and applying Jolt. This damage is increased by 50% while amplified. In almost every level of content, these lightning strikes help out a ton as they clean up any weak surrounding enemies, and then the Jolt helps out with damage against yellow bars. You end up spamming Thunderclaps over and over, calling down lightning everywhere and destroying anything nearby. For mods, we got Melee Kickstart, so upon melee use, we get energy back depending on how many armor charges we have, with no charge giving 12.9%, 1 charge giving 17.15%, 2 charges giving 23.4%, and 3 charges giving 31%. Impact Induction grants 20% grenade energy on charged melee hit with a 7-second cooldown, and then Heavy Handed grants all melee takedowns to spawn Orbs of Power. Over to the chest piece, you already know what I'm gonna say. 2 elemental resistance mods for the 25% damage resist to the threat modifier. So arc threat means put on a double arc resist, and then throw on a third different resistance like sniper resist or void resist for a 15% resistance. Down to the legs, we have on Arc Weapon Surge for a 10% arc weapon damage while we have an armor charge. Match this to whatever your main weapon is, so if you end up using Wish Ender, make it a kinetic weapon surge. We're also going to pick up Invigoration for a 10% melee energy on orb pickup, and Recuperation for a health boost on orb power pickup. And lastly, for the mark, we have on Powerful Attraction, so we collect nearby Orbs of Power on class ability use. Being able to use Barricade or Thruster and pick up a close orb and get a health burst is amazing for survivability. We also have on Outreach, so on class ability use we get 12% melee energy back, and then Font of Restoration for a plus 30 in recovery while we have an armor charge. This is so our health regen speed isn't absolutely terrible. And that about wraps it up for the build. We just got some quick tips to cover. Firstly, as with any melee build, you're going to be surrounded by enemies almost constantly, so you got to be smart with focusing survivability. Throwing out thunderclaps, even if it's just a quick cast to clear out tons of enemies, will always keep your health regenerating and spawn orbs of power that also give you health back. If you're ever in danger, just try and go for a quick punch or use your class ability energy to collect nearby orbs for that health. Make sure to be throwing out our grenade whenever it's up, as with the ionic traces we get our pulse back super quickly. We get a ton of energy regen with this build, so spamming is very easy, so make sure you're constantly using your thrusters, your thunderclap, your pulse nades, and then thunder crash whenever it's up, as we constantly have our super coming back, with us being able to cast it maybe 4 to 5 times in a single activity. If you're into melee builds and spamming builds, then you're gonna love throwing punches and causing lightning storms everywhere you go with this build. If you need a picture for copying, there's one on screen along with a dim link in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the build, and leave a comment up for any tips or future builds you want to see. Thank you everybody for watching. I've been Freakydude99, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.